Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Houston Texans versus Baltimore Ravens Week 12 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there's always going to be some variation between different data points. However, there's always going to be little nuggets of truth that could become bigger nuggets of truth as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So starting with this matchup between the Texans and the Ravens. When you look at the NFL stat basic comparison data, and basic comparison data essentially looks at how the offense is doing, how the defense is doing, and of course how the special teams is doing. And when you look at all this information, the Ravens are pretty heavily favored in this game when you look at the overall data. So let's get into the reasons why. First off, when it comes to offense, the Ravens are favored in terms of turnover ratio. So surprisingly, the Ravens don't turn the football over as much as the Texans have this year. The Ravens also don't allow as many sacks as the Texans have this year, but the Texans do have a slightly better offensive score percentage. The one consistent issue with the Ravens this year has been the offense. They don't put up points. They aren't very efficient in terms of various areas, which we'll get into a little bit later in the video. And just overall, the Texans do kind of have a slight edge because of this. But it is also important to remember that a lot of these offensive score percentage that the Texans have as an advantage was because of Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson, of course, got injured. So I would say that this would actually make this a little bit more even on offense. But at least it would make it more so in the Ravens' favor because of these factors, because of Deshaun Watson being injured and him being a major contributor to some of the positives that the Texans might have over the Ravens. Now, when you get to the defensive side of the football, this is where the Ravens just kind of blow it out of the park. The Ravens have a better defensive offensive score percentage, which is basically the ability to prevent points. The Ravens also have a better ability to create turnovers, better ability to create sacks, and also better ability to get interceptions, of course, which also falls in line with interceptions. So the Ravens defense has just been what it is. Like, the main driver of success for the Ravens this year has been the defense, and the offense has kind of held them back a bit. But the bottom line is defensively speaking, it's pretty clear cut that the Ravens are favored in this game when you just look at the defensive side of the football. And then, of course, when you get to special teams data, punt return yardage favors the Ravens, kick return yardage favors the Ravens, defensive punt return yardage, defensive kick return yardage also favors the Ravens, field goal percentage, Ravens, extra point percentage, Ravens, and punting average favors the Texans. So overall special teams data favors the Ravens. So when you look at things from a macro perspective, just to kind of wrap all this stuff up, the Ravens have the better defense in many different areas significantly. They have the better special teams, and they don't necessarily have the better offense when it comes to scoring. But keep in mind that because of the quarterback situation, because of Deshaun Watson not being healthy anymore, and he was kind of a contributor to this, this does actually make the Ravens a little bit closer to them in that perspective in terms of how effective their offense can be. So I would just kind of add that other sort of point to it. Although I would also say that it's not like the Ravens have DeAndre Hopkins, so there definitely are some things that the Ravens don't have that I think would still make them kind of not as good of an offense. But I do think that because of Deshaun Watson being injured, that kind of levels the playing field a bit. Now, when you get to some micro matchups, so looking at some situational football, people, when you look at completion percentage data between the Ravens offense and the Texans defense, in this particular area, the Ravens are favored on first and second down. Then, of course, you get to the completion percentage data for the Houston Texans versus Ravens defense, which again speaks to the Ravens' success. Better on first, second, and third down compared to the Texans offense. Then, of course, you get to rushing downs. Ravens offense versus Texans defense, where the Texans are favored on second and third down. This has been the one aspect of the Texans defense that's actually been pretty decent, has been the run D, but that's about, and we'll get into some other sort of areas, but that is kind of, I wouldn't say it's the biggest issue, but I would say that whenever you have a bad passing D, you typically have a good run D. So it's kind of a mini slight, I guess. Whenever you say, oh, well, they have a good run D, it's just kind of like a covert insult, I guess, at times. And then, of course, you get to the Texans rushing offense versus Ravens rushing defense. In this area, the Ravens are favored on 1st and 3rd down. Then, of course, you get to passing downs. This is the Texans, the Ravens passing offense versus Texans passing defense, and the Texans are favored on 2nd, 3rd, and 1st down. The Ravens passing offense is just not that amazing, so it's definitely sort of an area that's, and it really has nothing to do, I mean, definitely when they play a really tough team, they're not going to play well, but they just in general do not have that great of a passing offense. So this is definitely something that I would make sure to try to improve upon once the season's over. Then, of course, you look at the Texans passing offense versus Ravens passing defense, keeping in mind that a lot of this stuff is influenced by Deshaun Watson's presence. You know, his body is still felt, if you will, his spirit in the data. And when you look at this, the Ravens are actually favored here in terms of 1st and 3rd down. So the Ravens, even with the spirit of Deshaun Watson being alive and well, the Ravens still have the advantage in terms of 1st and 3rd down situations. Then, of course, you get to sack rate. Ravens offense versus Texans defense. In this area, the Texans are favored on 2nd and 3rd down. So I do think the Texans could potentially get some sacks in this game. And then, of course, you get to the Texans offense versus the Ravens defense, where the Ravens are favored on 1st and 2nd down. So I think the Ravens definitely will have some success here because of those factors. Then, of course, you get to interception ratio between the Ravens offense and Texans defense, where the Texans are favored on 1st and 2nd down. And then finally, you get to the Texans offense versus Ravens defense, where the Ravens are favored on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down. So I do expect some picks to happen just because it's the Ravens D and it's the Texans. I mean, come on, guys. We know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen here, although maybe not. But definitely really kind of heavily favors the Ravens. So overall, general thoughts about this football game. I feel good about a Ravens victory because of the defense, because of the special teams. But I also acknowledge the fact that the Ravens offense is so meh that it could favor the Texans. I mean, despite everything I just said, despite all the factors on defense that really support the Ravens, despite all the factors on offense that kind of support the Ravens as well, when you think about things from the perspective of Deshaun Watson not being here anymore, because his spirit is definitely still felt in the data because of that. But I still feel it's a Ravens victory, but this definitely is a kind of either-or type of game. If the Texans go into this game and they force the Ravens offense to make mistakes, to throw picks, to get turnovers, to all that stuff, and the Texans offense plays well, because we've seen the Ravens defense have weeks where they just don't get it done. So it could kind of go either way. So it's just one of those games where I do feel like it's a Ravens victory. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you think is going to win this football game? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Jimmetrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.